Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Oh no, deflation, one of the government's biggest fears. When deflation occurs, it means money becomes more valuable. This includes debt. For example, a mortgage of $100,000 may now require the equivalent of $120,000 to be repaid. In other words, workers have to now work 20% harder for the same amount of money. I say the same amount of money as in dollars, but 1 hour's time should still equate to 1 hour of buying power previously. The only thing that has changed is the units of dollars. If you have a surplus of cash, then your cash goes further with deflation. If you have debt, such as a mortgage, like the vast majority of people do, then now it becomes harder to pay back, and possibly too hard even, as you now earn a smaller unit of dollars. Lowering interest rates can help the deflation, but with rates where they are now, there isn't much room for movement. Traditionally, deflation is never good for an economy. There is a fall in aggregate demand. We saw this in the Great Depression. Capitalism, in theory, is meant to correct this. As people's wages decrease, it then means that labour becomes more feasible for certain tasks, and eventually the correct balance is met when wages have dropped far enough for them to feasibly be in the workforce again, and the economy rebuilds. However, this didn't happen in the Great Depression. There are many theories as why the Great Depression occurred, and why it lasted so long, but one of them I believe is there wasn't enough money supply to go around. I could go on about deflation, but I really want to talk about how Tesla is creating deflation. We've recently experienced a similar deflationary event since around the early 80s. More and more companies have been outsourcing their manufacturing to China. China can produce so much cheaper due to cheaper labour costs and less regulation when compared to the US. As a result, stuff came down in price. Everyone could buy more stuff for less. Now, this is a type of deflation also. Yes, it did have a negative impact on local manufacturing jobs in the US, but overall it improved the standard of living for the US and China too. Both countries benefited. So before you think I'm going to say Tesla is going to do all their manufacturing in China, I'm not. Tesla has innovated enough that they can compete better manufacturing locally, saving in shipping and logistics costs. They make their cars locally, and can even make different variations of their models to further satisfy the local market through extreme economies of scale. So how is Tesla going to create a deflationary economy? And what impact will it have on everything? So Tesla's main mission is transitioning off fossil fuels. However, we have to maintain the economy too, or people lose their homes, and it can even create famine. Therefore, governments can't simply make everyone move over to fossil fuels, especially if it's not feasible, as the economy can't cope. Of course Tesla know this, so how do you get around it? Simple, you make sure the alternative is cheaper and makes economic sense. However, Tesla weren't able to just come out with a cheaper product. For one, the technology wasn't there yet, and two, they didn't have any economies of scale when compared to the competition. So Tesla niched into a luxury brand to justify a higher price point, and were differentiated from the competition by being all electric. Even when Tesla were selling the Model S and X in full swing, we were still talking low numbers, as in not enough revenue to justify the necessary R&D to get the technology to where it needed to be. They had to evolve slowly, as any crucial mistake could have cost the company, and they were flying close to the sun as it was. Such a mistake could have been fatal. However, they managed to evolve the technology well enough to partner with Panasonic and come up with the almighty 2170 battery for the Model 3, meaning Tesla were able to deliver an all-electric car with a practical range at a price point affordable to many more. The Model 3 was a mass-produced car, resulting in more economies of scale for Tesla. The more cars they produce, the more their costs come down. Also, the more their revenue increases, and the more Tesla can justify spending on research and development. The money they invest in R&D results in cheaper manufacturing solutions and improved technologies. They can then cut prices more, and they sell more cars, increase more manufacturing, take advantage of more economies of scale, invest more in R&D, and it goes on. This is known as a positive feedback loop. In addition to that, Tesla's stock price rises. They then offer new share issues and raise more capital to further invest again. However, now they have a lot more experience and knowledge and a much better idea of where and how to invest large amounts of capital. Their infrastructure is also growing and improving too. More and more supercharger stations are being developed all the time. More service centers will appear as well. As the infrastructure grows, the product improves with it. As the product grows and shows that it genuinely can be a feasible substitute to internal combustion, then the government also intervened to help accelerate the movement too. It can take a while until a new technology has proven itself first though. As the new technology gets more established, then it also attracts more competition as they enter the market. They too can bring in additions with new technologies or better processes. Sure, Tesla dominates the competition, but it might be possible that some of the competition also come up with some ideas that Tesla didn't think of too, particularly some of the internal combustion manufacturers. With all their decades and decades of experience, Tesla can benefit from these too. So this feedback loop continues to drop the cost of the product, particularly in a new and growing industry like EVs, where the technology has so much more room to grow, as it's still in its infancy and has had very little in the way of investment over time when compared to the internal combustion engine. And look at how battery technology has improved just over the last 10 years. Okay, I can go on and on about how Tesla cars will become cheaper and cheaper, and their manufacturing processes like Gigapress and the battery cell pack being the car structure. But I think you get the idea that Tesla's costs are coming down, and their prices will too. Yes, that's right, their prices will too. So this will directly affect the consumer. But I don't mean the price of a Model 3 will be the same as a Toyota Corolla and you can now afford a Tesla instead of a Toyota. No, I mean that Tesla will become the cheapest form of motorized transport available. When the robotaxi network is deployed and working ubiquitously, then it will be much cheaper to use ride-sharing than not only owning a car, but than taking a bus. And remember, buses are only cheap because they're subsidized by government. Taxpayers are still paying for them. And not just cheaper in cost, but in time. A bus will only take you from one stop at a time. You have to wait for it, they go very slow and stop regularly. A robotaxi will take you from your pickup spot directly to your destination. If you earn $15 an hour, then that's probably another $5 to $10 saving in time also, and that's after tax. But what if you were to buy a car? We will soon see the launch of the Tesla Model 2, and it will eventually hit a $25,000 price tag, and it might have a running cost of perhaps $250 a year. Even a cheap hybrid would cost around $1,000 a year to run, with fuel and servicing. Over 5 years of ownership, the Prius would have cost about $5,000, the Tesla about $1,250, or less if you have solar as well. Not only that, the largest cost of the vehicle is depreciation. It's coming to realization now that Teslas don't depreciate very much, excluding perhaps the Model S and X. This is due for the above reason. They have such a strong intrinsic value of a low running cost. On top of that, Tesla will be offering insurance, and I bet it will undercut the others by about half. Tesla has all your driving information and know what kind of driver you are, and can therefore remove more liable drivers from their insurance, or at least charge them a premium, to give the careful drivers a more deserved discount on their insurance. When you factor all these in, then over 5 years it becomes cheaper to own a Model 2 than if you were given a hybrid for free. Remember, these companies were based on the cheapest alternative, something like a Toyota Prius, which is extremely basic on features, and not even close to Tesla performance and functionality, and of course FSD. But when you compare it to any non-hybrid ICE, it's not even close. Do you get it? The competition are so bad, they can't even compete on price if they gave their cars away. The semi-truck is the same. It's creating a cheaper method of transporting items on road. Road is the most expensive form of transportation. I think the cost $1 travelled on road is the equivalent by ship at 1 cent and on rail about 5 cents. I can only guess that the cost of the semi might be around the equivalent of 10 to 20 cents. This is a big deal. And when it becomes autonomous, or at least runs in the convoy, you remove or reduce the cost of the driver and save again further. Now, of course, the same will apply for energy and solar. Once Tesla ramp up their batteries enough to deliver some serious energy storage, and solar starts increasing more with power walls to complement, then what does that mean? It means cheaper energy for everyone. This is already the case again. In some parts of the world, it is already cheaper to set up a new solar farm compared to keeping an existing power plant running. And that's now. Solar is projected to improve dramatically again over this decade, as is battery technology. We're already there. Wind and solar are cheaper than coal and gas. So again, we'll get the positive feedback loop. Lower costs lead to more demand, which leads to more investment, which leads to lower costs, and so on. And this will happen fast. Why wouldn't you want to save money? And why wouldn't businesses want to save money? It's a no-brainer. Okay, so I think that explains enough reasons why energy and transport costs are about to come down. So let's look at the deflationary impact it will have on the economy in another video. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.